I don't have the medals hid away in a drawer somewhere, but it's photographs I have up everywhere. We didn't have anything else. There was a barracks there in a football field, and you share a changing room with Oisin McConville and John and Tony and Francie and Cahill Short and Anthony Cunningham and Herty. I was standing like towards the showers, way out of the way, and McGrain come out of his way to come over and give me a hug, and I remember that there till the day I die. So it was funny. I think it was 4 or 5 racing Benny around Ravensdale Park, and I won every week.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Win with Armagh podcast. As we have started this new series, we're talking to a few different Armagh faces, past players or notable faces. So we're delighted to be joined by Tony Kernan today, and we're going to look back at his career, both club and county. Tony, I suppose, tell us how it all started. I suppose growing up in the Kernan household, it was always going to be football. No other choice.
Yeah, you had no other option. People who didn't come from a GA background would ask me what it was like growing up in Crossmaglen, and we didn't have anything else. There was a barracks there in a football field, and you were just focused on your football really, so you were. We didn't have soccer, rugby, athletics, swimming. You were just focused on GA, and we were fortunate that we had, I guess, the role models we have within our community and the club and our county. That you wanted to, I guess, aspire to be them there, and work hard to play on the athletic grounds or play in Crossmaglen, places like that.
I suppose when you were growing up, like your dad's managing Cross, and suddenly you're winning Ulsters and All-Ireland titles. Like I think in '96 was it that you only won the first county title in whatever 10 years or something, and suddenly you go on this magical run. Like, what age would you have been at that stage, Tony?
I think I was 10. I was born the last year Cross had won a championship, and I just remember for the few years before that there were barren years, and you were wondering, were we going to win a championship again? And there was a young team coming, but they didn't have the positive experience of getting across the line in a county championship. And Clanagale were going well, Mullaban arrived and they were going really well, and you were wondering if we would ever win championships again. We heard stories about great teams in the 60s and 70s, and we were wondering, was that a distant memory?
And what was it like then? I suppose the All-Ireland run, your dad's the manager, you in the changing rooms and on the team bus and stuff. Did you get that sort of experience with all that?
Yeah, we were very fortunate in the house that we grew up in, and the access we had to all those players, and arriving in changing rooms and seeing boys at training and whatnot, and seeing the commitment that was required and the level of dedication that was required, and I guess what good practice was, what it looked like to be driven, to be motivated, to be a good teammate. So we were incredibly fortunate with the access we had to all of that there.
And what was it like out in the backyard in the Kernan household? Sure, it was good crack.
There was a few tasty encounters, sure there was. So the 4 of us, the 4 older boys would have been much closer in age. So Aaron and I would have played Stephen and Paul, and that was generally what the teams would be. And it would all be going fine until someone was getting beaten by a score you couldn't get, and then a row would break out. And
that success that Cross went on, like the win every championship from '96 to '09, like what's that? You're a young fella watching all that. Suddenly you're coming up through the minor age groups. You're coming into senior. What's that like to sort of experience that success?
I guess whenever you're a young fella looking at it, you're just looking up at the boys with pride, dreaming of getting there at one point. But then you've got your own sort of games at underage level, and you're maybe getting beat by Pearshogues beat us a number of years in a row at under 16 and minor level, and Harps beat us a couple of years in a row at minor level, and you're wondering, Christ, is this run going to come to an end whenever I get up there? But when you share a changing room with Oisin McConville and John and Tony and Francie and Cahill Short and Anthony Cunningham, Herty, they're quite good at putting an arm around you and bringing you along until you're able to stand on your own 2 feet a few years later, and you're helping the young boys come along.
And obviously at that period then your dad moves on to manage Armagh, so you had that experience of being on the bus and the changing rooms and everything in the Crossmaglen changing room. You're now doing this with Armagh, and suddenly they win All-Ireland in his first year.
We actually, before '02, Dad was he was a selector with Paddy Moe in '89 and '90, so that was, I guess, our first experience of being around a team. And he used to train them in Ravensdale Park. And Benny Tierney had the same frame that he had in '02. So it was funny, I think it was 4 or 5 racing Benny around Ravensdale Park, and I won every week. So yeah, we sort of got to know some of the boys then. So whenever Dad arrived back in Armagh in '02, Benny recognised me straight away from all the beatings in Ravensdale Park. So that broke the ice, and you were a bit of slagging and a bit of banter with the boys, and then you almost felt part of the furniture, going to training and helping out, collecting footballs off some of the boys, and helping out wherever was needed at training. But it was an unbelievable experience, so it was, to see some of them boys, how they trained, how they prepared, I guess how much it meant to them, how important it was for them. It was an unbelievable time.
I know too, like when they win All Ireland, Tony, is there anything that really stands out, I suppose, after that, any big memories?
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 different memories. The whole run through it, not unlike 2024 for me personally. The semi-final was nearly much bigger than the final, and the emotion immediately after the semi-final was enormous. And like the Kerry game a couple of years ago, the final is nearly a relief that you've got over the line, but the real joy came out in the semi-final in '02. And I just remember one moment from the actual final. Again, we had access to the change room, so immediately after the final we went into the change rooms, and all the boys were hugging and congratulating each other, and I was standing like towards the showers, way out of the way, and McGrain come out of his way to come over and give me a hug. And I remember that there till the day I die, how he was the man. He had played midfield in an All-Ireland final. It was his moment, but he recognised that there was a young fella standing there who might play for Armagh one day, and sure, I'll go and share that moment with him. It was class, really good.
And I suppose you're coming up then, Tony. I know we were talking off air there, like Crosser having brilliant success winning All Ireland. You're trying to play under 21s for Armagh. You're starting to come into the senior team, so you were flat out for those couple of years.
Again, great times. You were going from game to game, so you were, and like I grew up from I was 4 or 5, just wanting to play for Armagh, wanting to play for Cross. So when you were given the opportunity to do so at under 21 level, jumped at the opportunity, and then I guess you're hoping to prove yourself to get a call to play a senior football for Armagh. It's what I had dreamt of from a young age. So whenever Peter McDonald had asked me to come and play, there was no doubt in my mind I was going to go and do that there, and I just hoped that I did the jersey justice, and earned the respect of my teammates. You
mentioned those names, like Paul McGrain, obviously a big one. Those Cross McGlen boys are still there. The likes of, Archie McConville was still there in '08, Francie Bellew, Steve McDonald still there, Ronan Clark, like a lot of those '02 guys. So what was it like? You a couple of years earlier, you were in there as a young lad watching all these boys. Suddenly you're sharing a changing room with them and passing the ball to them, and it's obviously a much different dynamic.
Oh, massively. It's a sort of a pinch yourself moment. Stevie was one of the best forwards Armagh ever had, and I had idolised him and his shooting and how he could score and taking a shot off one step. I actually made my debut because he couldn't shoot. He was hitting free kicks. We were playing Cavan in '08, and he was on free kicks, and he missed a 14-yard free kick. And because he couldn't score, I ended up getting on at half-time to hit the free kicks, and I got on all right that day. So I guess I felt comfortable in their space then from then on.
And I mind chatting to you last summer, and you were saying your first championship start was the Ulster final replay against Fermanagh in '08. So obviously Armagh, they drew the first day out. They come in, you're starting the next day. When it's probably because Armagh playing Fermanagh, because of the success Armagh did have. It's nearly like you were expected to come in and just win Ulster every year. So like, what was that like for your first championship start? There's certain pressure with it as well, I'm sure.
Yes and no. I started the replay because again Stevie had the shanks in the first game, and he missed a couple of free kicks. And I come on and I managed to score a few free kicks in the replay, and we got across the line. But yeah, you just think this is normal then. We'll just keep winning Ulsters, and it's how many medals I can go and collect. And you think, right, well, that's the start of it. When's the next one arriving here? But it didn't arrive, and we haven't had another Ulster medal since then. So you start to look at different things to get joy out of it, or get a bit of comfort out of it. And I'm more than happy with the memories that I have as a result of wearing an orange jersey.
And like, although another Ulster didn't come, there was still plenty of big days, like 2011, I think it was, out in athletic grounds here against Down. Obviously 2014's run against to get into Croke Park against Donegal in the quarter-final. Like, it was maybe not the success that had come beforehand, but there was still plenty of good days in those years too.
Yeah, there was. You used to think that you were chasing medals when you were younger, but now that I'm, I guess, a bit older and I look around the house, I don't have the medals hid away in a drawer somewhere, but it's photographs I have up everywhere, a bit like this room here. And you sort of adjust your how you look back at things, and you're actually chasing memories, and so many fond memories, and so many great times and great characters. And like even coming driving down here, I was thinking of Ronan Hart, who was the groundsman here, and I tortured him for years to leave a bag of balls sitting out for me or leave the change rooms open. And every time I text, his eyes must have been rolling, but he always done it for me. And so many fond memories like that there. Bus journeys here or there, or a bit of crack in a training camp, or like that 2014 year, I think 9 out of 10 weeks in a row we ended up away at a game. So we were away in a hotel, and I was rooming with Rory Grugan, and the crack we would have had those weekends away. So yeah, huge amount of fond memories with great characters and great fellas.
And games like that, they're nearly sliding doors moments, Tony, aren't they? That Donegal one, because obviously they go on to beat the unbeatable Dublin team in the semi-final and come within the width of a post of winning another All-Ireland. Like, and Armagh had them in that game, like only 1 point separated. So like, it's just games like that just they're sliding door moments, aren't they?
Yeah, we developed a bit, or managed to get a bit of momentum as the championship went on, and the more time spent together, the more comfortable and confident we felt in our own skin, and we believed that we could beat Donegal that day. I had a free kick at the end. If I kick that there, then we go and we win, or we get a draw, and then you never know what could happen. Momentum was with us at that point, but Donegal sort of pushed on, won a few more Ulsters, and we really fell away. So we did. I think we were possibly relegated the next year, was it? And no, relegated 2 years later in the Division 3, and Laois beat us a couple of times, and boys were going away travelling, and it was just difficult to try and get that momentum back that we had at that moment in time. But yeah, very much a sliding door moment. You could have been playing in an All-Ireland semi-final, and wasn't to be.
And I suppose that time, like you mentioned Rory Grugan there, Stephen Campbell's there, Aidan Falker's coming through at that time as well, like Andrew Mernon obviously too. There's players at that stage you're talking about getting relegated to Division 3, and suddenly in a couple of years' time they're coming back to winning on Ireland. Like, did you see that in that group at that time when you were there? I think you played your last game in 2016, so obviously it's 8 years before those boys go on to win All Ireland. But did you think those boys I mentioned and the few other boys that come through, was the calibre there?
Yeah, the calibre was there. Did I see us win an All Ireland? Probably not. I would have hung around for a bit more had I guess believed. I just had a low year that year. We got relegated. We got beaten in an All Ireland semi-final with Cross. We lost 3 championship games, Cavan and Laois twice, and I probably looked at myself, and I would have taken a fair bit of personal responsibility for a lot of those losses. But when you look at those boys, I'd be lying if I said those boys are definitely going to go and win an All Ireland. But God, you couldn't have been happier for them. Like, everyone you named were great fellas, and there's so many fellas who really soldiered for a really long time who weren't fortunate enough to go and win that there All Ireland, like Brendy Donaghy, Kieran Toner, a couple of names who were great teammates, great leaders within the group, great characters within the group, and weren't fortunate to get across the line like the boys did. But you could see the quality in them when they got that wee bit of confidence and they got a wee bit of momentum of their own in the couple of years leading up to the All-Ireland success. And it's carried through with some of them even now, like Andrew Murnan's flying, so he is. And I guess the rest of Ireland are getting to see the footballer that we would have seen in training and the belief we would have had in him in training. And they've all had great county careers from then, really.
And I suppose in 02, you're, as we said, the young lad in the changing room. 2024, you're the retired ex-player looking at all your ex-teammates winning All-Ireland. Like, so that's a different dynamic, but I'm sure you were like everybody else, you were chuffed in 24 to see them getting across the line.
Over the moon, full of emotion. I'll never forget 2014. I'll never forget where I was sitting for each of the games. I was in the sort of lower canal end for the final and looking up and seeing Dad and him welling up and me even getting emotional thinking about it again here now. I had my own kids all there with me, and I guess they're like I was arriving into that team. They think we'll win another All-Ireland here soon, so we will. And please God we do, but it was amazing. So it was full of pride in the boys that I played with, and delighted for the management team who had put so much into it. Like, if you're asking me one of my main memories of playing for Armagh, it would have been every bus journey I pulled up and to play a game. The first person at the gates would have been Kieran McKeever's mum and dad. Way back before it was fashionable for Armagh fans to get somewhere early, they set the tone. Like whether we were in Páirc Uí Chaoimh or Tuam or whatever, Majala was always the first person at the gate. So I guess delighted for the two Kierans in 2014, but I'm sure Majala was really proud and is really proud of Kieran even now.
And just before we wrap up, Tony, the club success, the family success, the four Kernan brothers, you all won Ulster medals with each other in 08, All-Ireland medals together. Like, is there any moment that sticks out of those club journeys, I suppose? Is there any All-Ireland or Ulster club that means more than the others or anything like that?
No, 08 was quite special. The four of us had played when Armagh won the Ulster, and the four of us, Cross won the Ulster that year. We have a nice photograph at home with the four of us with each of the cups in the 1 year. That was quite nice. But I'd say we've got our own wee individual moments at different points during those years. 2014 was probably a decent year for me and ended on a low note in that I missed that there free kick. Aaron has plenty of fond moments in Armagh and Cross jerseys, and Paul and Stephen likewise. So no, we've had long careers, and we were really fortunate for the most of it. A few wee low moments here and there, but I guess they made us.
And calling time on your Cross career, was that a difficult decision to make? Because I think you retired in 21, that just lost back-to-back county finals. Like, was that difficult to come back to win 2 in a row as well after that? But was that a difficult decision to come out of?
No, not really. I was probably hoping to get out a couple of years before that there, but you're hanging on for one more medal, so you are. Life goes on and young fellas come along, and I guess it's you would be conscious that you possibly have a bigger presence in a changing room, and you don't want to be putting anyone's nose out of joint or stopping a young fella from progressing as they should. I felt the Cross boys were in a good place and they were capable of pushing on and winning another couple of championships, which they've done. So no, I was more than happy with my lot. I think I done all right, so I did. In terms of my career, I was very, very lucky. So no, I'm married in the Clan Aaron as well. So my last game was against them. So I said they could have won the championship, but they've been greedy, so they haven't.
You wouldn't get another one.
Yeah.
And Tony, like, I suppose looking back on it all, everything, your club, your county career, Armagh winning 2 All-Irelands, like, we're looking forward now to the future with this win with Armagh campaign. Obviously, Armagh, they've stayed up in Division 1, hopefully another big summer coming up. But the St Malachy's ground in Portadown, that's going to be the new centre of excellence. It's so important, I suppose, when you see what other counties have their training facilities and Armagh still in Kernan Bridge, that you trampling that when you were playing. People in 02, they were still trampling Kernan Bridge. So like the new facilities, they're so important, and it's so important for everybody to get behind the campaign.
Hugely important, so it is. Like I remember, and it's no exaggeration, being in Kernan Bridge and Paddy the Bishop wading through water to lift footballs in, or Mickey Trainer doing likewise, or Sean Agnew, all these various men who helped us out at different points. And it was mud and gutters. It has improved a bit, but we're limited what we can do over there. The facilities which have, I guess they're working on in St Malachy's, it will be second to none. And it is when you go around different counties and you get to see what they have been able to train in over the past few years. You do look at that there with envy. So it's massive in terms of the drive to get the funding to complete this here. And the amount of generosity shown from people to date. Players don't miss that there. I know from being a kid watching Dad trying to fundraise to help the county team, and then from being a player, seeing sponsors help, players really appreciate it, so they do. And the players who are there at the minute, it might come a bit too late for some of their careers, but they will really appreciate it, and younger kids coming along will get the benefit from it, and we'll get the benefit in terms of supporting them over the next few years.
And hopefully another All-Ireland won't be another 22.
Well, at least one.
We'll take another one.
Yeah.
So that's the end of this podcast. As usual, we'll be back with many more, hopefully, former players and notable faces over the next couple of weeks. We're speaking about the campaign. We're linking up with Shelbourne Motors, and you have the chance to win 50 grand's worth of cars from Shelbourne Motors for £5 a ticket. So please, everybody, get behind the campaign. It's a very, very worthy cause. Tune into our social medias pages, Win with Armagh, and see what's coming up next. So Tony, thanks very much for coming on.
Brilliant. No worries. Thank you.
Win £50,000 to spend how you like.
Here at Shelbourne Motors.
You could choose this car.
Or what about this one?
Why not grab two while you're at it?
£50,000 to spend your way at Shelbourne Motors.
It's entirely up to you. One car, two cars, it's your way.
It's a tough one for me, but I'd probably go with this one.
Enter now, tickets are only a £5.